At 52 years old, I am more aware of the impact of one than I ever have been in my life. One word, one friendship, one relationship, one decision, and it changes everything. 29 years ago, I was a middle school teacher, and it occurred to me that from the low resource students that I had in my class to the very privileged students in my class, that we had this amazing opportunity for the exposure that we were having through conversations and the experiences that we were having and the interactions that we were having to take every student in that class to the next level. And at that point, I think a familiar refrain of mine was birthed. We are shaped by the sum total of our experiences, exposures, and interactions. We have no choice in the matter of whether we impact people's lives, but we have some choice in the matter of how. I was an English and social studies teacher at a Ford Foundation institution, and I marveled at the experiences that were coming back into my classes from vacation. Students were talking about places that I didn't even know where they were, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing, this is fantastic. And so what I did is I integrated reflections of all of those places into the curriculum, and so we were able to pull out these things and use these memories to kind of grow and connect, and it was really just a sweet time. I also recognized that there were students that weren't traveling. And so I said, okay, what do we do for those students so that they feel like they matter in this space? And when we figured out how to give everyone an opportunity to kind of be front and center and everybody felt like they had contributed, I realized that some things were happening in terms of me healing that inner child that had felt like it didn't matter. I actually grew up in South Central LA, and I was the youngest of 4 girls, and they were affectionately called the Lonnie girls in the neighborhood. And I can remember beaming with pride because I was a Lonnie girl, but I can also remember a little bit of shame because my sisters were all Lonnies, but my name was Renita Robinson. And I didn't quite get why I was always feeling like I was kind of a little marginal to the family. And it didn't help that my sisters told a fantastic story every time we were together as families about when my mom brought me home from the hospital. Like at family gatherings, I would just wait for the other shoe to drop. It would be frivolity and everybody would be excited and things would be going great and my heart would be like boom, 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 because I knew it was gonna happen. I was waiting for the time when they would start telling the story about when Nene came home from the hospital. And they would say, when Mom brought Tootie home from the hospital, she was pink and she was so cute. She had those pink little lips and she was so cute to cuddle. But when Mom brought Nene home from the hospital, she was dark and she was skinny and she was always crying. She was so loud. We would say, "You got the wrong baby, Mama. Take that baby back." And in fairness to my sisters, when I told them the story of it, my oldest sister, almost in tears, said, "Nika, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. We were just young, dumb kids. We didn't know any better." And the other older sister said, "I'm sorry about that, Nene, but you were loud. You were loud all the time." And so I recognized really early kind of that I had my life cut out for me being the youngest of those 4 sisters. And so I actually reflected a lot on the fact that I had a dad that loved me. This is my dad. His name is Johnny Payne Robinson. And I tell you what, when I spent time with my dad, everything was okay. I thought my dad was 9 foot tall and bulletproofed. I can remember being out with my dad and being the happiest little girl in the world. I would twirl on you, but I'm concerned about this red dot. And I remember just thinking, that life couldn't get much better than that. Fast forward when I was 16 years old and junior in high school. I was a young graduating senior, but my parents split and my dad moved away to Texas. And I missed everything about him. Oh my goodness, I missed his smell. I missed his jokes. I missed those hugs when he came home at the end of the day. But he would send for me. And during one of the times that he sent for me, he had a new job. And so he was like, come on, Smokey, I want to take you to my job. And I was like, okay, because I was happy to oblige him. Anytime I could spend with my dad was time well spent. And so we went to his job and he was taking me around. And when he was done showing me the job, we were about to walk out, and he had his hat in his hand already, and he looked down and started fumbling with his hat, and I was kind of like, what's going on? And I saw that his boss was coming towards him, and it was a white gentleman, and he looked down, and he started mumbling, and he started saying, yes, sir, no, sir, and I stood there kind of going, what in the world is happening? And my mind was looking at him, and I was like, had these butterflies, and I was like saying, Daddy, please look up. Daddy, please look up. And in that moment, I recognized for the first time how vulnerable I was. I recognized at that time that my daddy had just turned into a little boy right before my eyes, and that I actually wasn't safe in the world. It was the first time that I felt like, oh my goodness, I'm on my own in this. Flash forward to me being a young professional, and it's time for a meeting. And so I'm in the WIC Alumni Center at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and I'm going up the elevator. And I was doing what everybody does when they're in an elevator. I was practicing my moves. And I was getting ready for this meeting. And so when I could feel the elevator was about to stop, of course, I kind of straightened up and I got myself together in my blue suit with my white shirt. And I walked into the meeting. I greeted everybody and I did what I needed to do at the meeting. But that night, something happened to me. I laid in bed kind of going, what was that all about? Like, it was really noisy to me how much I changed from the happy that I was in the elevator to when I was in that meeting. And it occurred to me that I didn't want to pay the cost of being that duplicitous. The best version of myself was in that elevator, and that's who I wanted to be. About 4 weeks later, I found myself in the vice chancellor's office with my supervisor, and as a courtesy, letting them know that I was going to tender my letter of resignation. I left a tenure-track job with a great advancement scale and kind of conversations about me being fast-tracked to be a vice chancellor, I resigned, and I went and I followed my passion, and I took 2 part-time jobs. I was a director of women's ministry for the Fellowship of Christian Athlete, and then I was the program director at the Lincoln Family Violence Council. And I was the happiest girl on earth. I was happier than I had been in quite some time. And I realized at that point that there was something really different than a ladder climb. And so when I left the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, I had a night where I woke up in the middle of the night, actually, and I got out of bed and I scribbled feverishly on a legal pad. And when I was done with what was keeping me up, I had written 7 pages of single-page notes on a pad. And when I was done or felt empty, I kind of got back in the bed and didn't think much about it. A few weeks later, actually, I got a call from the executive director of the People City Mission, a 400-bed homeless shelter in Lincoln, Nebraska. His name was Pastor Tom, and he said, Renita, he said, we want to open up a non-medical recovery program for survivors of domestic violence, and we think you're the one to lead it. And I said, I don't think I'm breathing, but I stopped breathing for a moment because I said, PT, he actually used to be my Sunday school pastor. I said, PT, I said, I had a dream. I said, a few weeks ago, I woke up out of my sleep and I wrote out 7 pages of notes. I said, I'll put it in a presentation and I'll come and I'll share it with you. And he said, okay, but there's one more thing. And I was like, what is that? And he said, the associate director doesn't think you're the right person. And I was like, oh, okay, because I had come to understand if it's for me, it's for me, and nobody else can stop it, right? And so I went in the end of the week, and I did the presentation to them. And about 20 minutes into the presentation, the associate director stopped me, and I was like, ruh, ruh. And he said, just leaned into me, and he said, when could you start? I started a few weeks later in June. And 6 months after that, the Mirror Project at the People City Mission started. We were the most culturally diverse recovery program in the region. And to date, 60% of the graduates actually are still employed, actually are free from the life-controlling addictions that they got into the program to curtail. And I feel like the one decision that I made to be the best version of myself had an impact on changing lives. You know, professionals or young professionals come to me often and they ask questions about how did I get to where I am, what did you do, you know, wanting to know kind of trade secrets. And I don't have any real trade secrets except I encourage them to bloom wherever you're planted. Like all of us have this capacity just to bloom wherever we're planted. We don't think of ourselves as kind of the life-giving people that we are, but we are. And when we bloom where we're planted, this amazing thing happens. It's really kind of sweet. It's like eating candy most of the time, right? And so I recognize that when you bloom where you're planted, people are watching you. You don't recognize it, but people are watching you and they are learning from you, and some of them are taking strength from you. And I know this because that's what I did for people that helped me change my life. That's what I did when I came to the understanding that I could actually believe what my Heavenly Father said about me rather than what the bad experiences of my history said about me. And so I know that my life is meaningful and it makes a difference because of several one little things. I had one coach who believed in me. And you know what? I ran fartleks uphill in tears because he believed that I could do it. He believed it, I didn't. I ended up winning a NCAA national championship. And then I won the Olympic trials exhibition because he believed in me, just that one coach. I know this is true because I had one professor when I was really struggling in a master's program to tell me, Renita, you're smart enough for this, you can do it. She believed it, I didn't. I now have 2 master's degrees and I finished all my coursework for a doctoral degree. I know that this is true because I had one active anti-racist ally friend who told me, Renita, you have ideas worth spreading. You should consider doing a TED Talk. I hadn't thought about it, but she had, and so here I am. The good news is that you are that one person for many people, and you have one person that you probably can reflect on even right now. And if you close your eyes without thinking too hard, there is one person that has said a word to you that made a difference. There is one decision you've made that changed or altered the course of your life. A matter of fact, I bet you most of you didn't think when you came in here tonight that you mattered as much as you do. Well, with the many touches that you've had from the car to here, you've changed people's lives. And most of us don't think about that like that. A matter of fact, I say that often and people kind of go, well, it's true. If you hadn't been sitting in the seat that you're sitting in right now, you would have changed my life. That's pretty sweet. I have a lot of words, but I'm not going to use them all on you tonight. Tonight, I want to introduce you to Kaya Lynn. And Kaya Lynn is my very special butterfly. Kaya Lynn is my granddaughter. And I have a lot of fondness about butterflies because of just the beauty in them. And I want to encourage you all kind of about 3 things. The first thing is that our history is our history, and there's nothing we can do about it. It comes with us, and it follows us around, and it's just with us in every interaction. And so what we can do is we can recognize our history, and we can be intentional about how we let that history impact our present and our future. The second thing is we can actually just choose to be the best version of ourselves all the time. And the best version of ourselves actually is gracious. And the best version of ourselves knows that there is winning and there's learning. And it gives us a big break. The third thing is that all of us actually have butterflies. When you look at Kyle Lynn and you think about that, it doesn't seem so scary to have butterflies and do the next thing, right? And so I want to encourage you all that you can be the one. I want to encourage you that even if you were the darkest in a family where that's not so great, or if you're the lightest in a family where that's not so great, if you made mistakes that kind of keep you up at night, like there's an opportunity for you to do those things over. I want to encourage you all to lean kind of into your butterflies, because really all it takes is one. It takes one person to make one decision that can change one life, that can change everything. Please, I want to encourage you that all it takes is one person to actually organize their butterflies. And it changes everything. Thank you.